This time on episode 356 of Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., we talk Daredevil Season 3, Episode 7, Aftermath, and Season 3, Episode 8, Upstairs, Downstairs. We talk weekly Marvel news, and we talk your feedback.
I'm Stephen John Drew from the official GonnaGeek.com show, a weekly geek news podcast that is a part of the Gonna Geek network, just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other awesome geeky shows at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
You have been granted clearance by director Alfonso Mack Mackenzie. Stand by for a S.H.I.E.L.D. debriefing. All information to be discussed here is classified and may only be discussed among agents granted clearance by the S.H.I.E.L.D. director.
Now it's time for your scheduled debriefing. I'm Agent Lauren.
I'm Agent Michelle.
And I'm producer of the show, SP. Welcome to Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., a Marvel Comic Universe fan show. The show is recorded on Thursday, December 10th, 2020, live from the Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. studios, and broadcast New York-wide via www.geeks.live. Come join our live chat as we record. Ladies, happy Nobel Prize Day.
Okay.
The Nobel Prize is all well and good, but have you heard of the Ig Nobel Prize?
No, do tell.
Okay. Oh my God, you haven't heard of it. Okay. It is kind of not really an anti-ceremony. The actual description of it is they honor achievements that first make people laugh and then make them think. This year, the award was held in September. I think it's traditionally held the day before or the evening before the actual Nobel Prizes are awarded. And they've had such things in the past as, oh geez, there's so many and so many good ones. I'm trying to figure out which one SP won't have to censor. Okay, here's from 2020, from this year. For the Acoustics Prize, for example, the winners were from Austria, Sweden, Japan, USA, and Switzerland for inducing a female Chinese alligator to bellow in an airtight chamber filled with helium-enriched air. And the paper was called A Chinese Alligator in Heliox, Formant Frequencies in a Crocodilian. It's just all like weird stuff like that. And it's so good. The Nobel Prize is very important, very fantastic. There's some really good stuff that comes out of it. But for me, the Ig Nobels is always where my heart is.
Okay, that must be when the prizes are actually announced, the winners are announced. So the award ceremony is actually December 10th every year for the Nobel Prize.
Okay.
And it's held on December 10th because it is the anniversary of Alfred Nobel's death. So they just keep the award ceremony on the day. So I think you're right. I think it is September. I don't remember the exact day that the awards are announced, but I will have to look that up. So IG, is that IGG?
IG and then Nobel.
Okay.
Nobel.
IG Nobel.
Yes.
All right. So you've given me homework to look at, which I will get to.
I promise it's fun homework.
Okay. Which I'll probably get to when I edit the show. All right, let's move on with why we're here to talk about Marvel. And Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a fan-based podcast on the Marvel cinematic and comic book universes.
Because of sad goat noises.
If you'd like to talk to us about sad goat noises, you can visit our website, legendsofshield.com.
You can also leave us a voicemail, maybe with your sad goat noise, at 844-THE-BUS-1. That's 844-843-2871.
You can tell us all about your sad goat or other animal noises on our Facebook page, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. Podcast.
You can find us on Twitter at Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D.
You can see our faces on YouTube at youtube.com/GonnaGeek.
You can tell your Amazon device to enable Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. skill.
You can join our Discord server at GonnaGeek.com/Discord.
And remember, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a proud member of the GonnaGeek.com network.
Sad goat noises, sad barnyard animal noises. in inappropriate places, loud barnyard noises in inappropriate places. Yeah, I can see that all there. So we're going to talk that and a whole bunch of other things just a second. Daredevil, Season 3, Episode 7, Season 3, Episode 8, Aftermath, and Upstairs/Downstairs were published in Netflix on October 19th, 2018, just over 2 years ago at this point in time. Michelle, why don't you run down the creative team of Aftermath?
This episode was directed by Toa Fraser, has 21 directing credits starting in 2006, including 1 Penny Dreadful, 2 The Shannara Chronicles, 4 Into the Badlands, 1 Iron Fist, 1 Daredevil, 1 Swamp Thing, 1 Titans, and 1 Stargirl. This episode was written by Sarah Streicher, has 3 writing credits starting in 2011, including 1 Daredevil, but being the staff writer on 13 episodes, and 4 episodes of The Wild, and she's also the creator.
All right. Lauren, why don't you run down the creative team behind Upstairs and Downstairs?
The episode was directed by, and I'm fairly sure I have this right, Alex Zakrzewski.
Nice.
Who has 71 directing credits starting in the year 2000, including 1 of Crossing Jordan, 4 of Oz, 7 of Law and Order Criminal Intent, 2 of The Wire, 2 of Life on Mars, 11 of Numbers, 1 of Person of Interest, 11 of CSI New York, 1 of Once Upon a Time, 2 of The Blacklist, 2 of The Man in the High Castle, 1 episode of Daredevil, 13 of Blue Bloods, 2 of Stumptown, and 13 of Bosch. The episode was also written by Dara Resnik, who has 11 writing credits starting in 2007, including 2 of Pushing Daisies, yes, 2 of Mistresses, 5 of Castle, 1 of Jane the Virgin, 2 of Daredevil, and 2 of Home Before Dark.
Wow. So Alex, the director, he took on the show Stumptown, which despite the person that starred in it, I did not see a single episode. Michelle, I believe I remember you saying that you were going to watch Stumptown. Did you watch any of that?
Well, I was going to watch it, and then it was canceled, and then it went to the back burner, and then it was renewed. I'm like, okay, I'll watch it, but then it got canceled again. So it's way on the back burner.
Yeah, a friend of mine has been watching it, or did watch it, and really enjoyed it, though.
Okay. Because Kobe was in it, and of course she was Agent Hill and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And the other one that I was looking at in the list that Alex directed was a episode of Persons of Interest, or Person of Interest, which was an interesting show. I think it would probably be a little bit dated right now, but it was interesting.
I remember watching the first... Okay, I've seen some of it. I keep meaning to finish it because I've heard it gets really fantastic. But the night it premiered, my very Catholic mother was staying with me for the weekend, and she was texting my aunts while we were watching it going, Jesus is so sexy.
Oh my goodness, because it starred the guy who...
Because it stars Jim Caviezel, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, who played Jesus.
Jim was really good in the series.
Oh, yeah.
I enjoyed it.
I used to describe it as the show where Jesus is Batman.
Yeah, that's pretty much... I mean, he was in the suit. He was always called the guy in the suit. So, I could see that, Batman.
Plus, it was co-created by Jonathan Nolan, who is Christopher Nolan's brother.
That is making so much sense to me right now. All right. The reason that I go in, I don't think I've ever mentioned this before, but the reason, as we're talking about the creative team, the reason I go into some of these series is just to highlight some of the work that the creative team, the writers and the directors have done previously, or after in some cases, to the show, their aggregate work, because for a large part, they do a fantastic job of giving us this Marvel content. And I just want to call all of them out. That's why we go over their filmography, and that's why I pick out a few series that I'm familiar with, and then we talk about.
I'm very glad that you do that, because it's a very good way. Like if you really like the way a writer or director used the characters, You can go back and see, oh, they did this. Now I can see how they got here. Or if you really liked how they did action, now we've discussed which directors have been very good at the action scenes. And I really like that you do that because so much of, we always hear about, oh, best actor or best writer, best director at the Academy Awards. But you don't tend to hear about TV writers and directors. And it was kind of a second-rate job, as far as I know, for a very long time. And it wasn't until like prestige TV started coming to the forefront that you started getting a lot more people noticing who the writers and directors are.
And that's why we've been calling them out every week that we talk about an episode. So moving on to these episodes, Aftermath and Upstairs, Downstairs, it starts in the aftermath of the attack on the Bulletin and goes all the way to the big reveal at the end of Upstairs, Downstairs between Sister Maggie and Daredevil. We've been beating around the bush about this, so we're just going to get it out of the way to begin with. In case you're watching these episode by episode with us, this was a big reveal at the end. Sister Maggie is Daredevil's mother.
Da, 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 da.
Yes, I actually did that. It's like the comic book person in me is like, I know this, but is the show going to go there? And when that happened, and I really liked, because it's called Upstairs, Downstairs for a lot of reasons. We get fights upstairs, downstairs, and then there's the whole Fisk reveal of, he's up in his bedroom and down, but she's up in the church. He's downstairs in the basement. I don't know. I guess she just doesn't realize how powerful his hearing is. It's like she knows he can see in a way, like he has a special ability, even though he's blind. But there she is upstairs praying, and praying not to God really, but praying to his dad. And he's like, you're too much like our son. And the reaction of Daredevil, of Matt, it's like he almost wants to faint. That was just brilliant.
It was a real, no, I am your father moment right there. Even though, yeah, like Michelle, I've known this for years. But there's always that small little okay, I know they're probably doing this, but are they though? And it was so nice. That reaction was so good.
Yeah, I think he says, Mom, and then he's like, oh my gosh. They set it up in these two episodes. They set it up his hearing, because when they were in the attack or in the gunfight or whatever of Dex's apartment, he was saying, yeah, the neighbor called 911. He's had 3 shots. He's reloading the clip. I'll let you know. So they set up the whole hearing thing earlier on. They referenced it right there. So it's not that big of a stretch at the end of the episode. If you're only watching like one a week and you forget about everything that's happening or whatever, they did include it in here. So
it's Chekhov's super hearing.
Yeah, pretty much. The whole season has been that way, but they made sure they hit it right in this episode so that we were able to do that. So I think that the whole bunch of things are going to happen. This is a 13 episode season. This is episode 8, effectively halfway for us as we're going through here. I think that was a great way to end our halfway point here. And now I don't know if Matt is going to confront her or if she's going to just let the cat out of the bag. But the two of them in the next episode or two are going to have this moment where he's going to reveal that he knows, or she's going to just tell him something like that. And that's going to be an interesting conversation.
I don't see him being able to just drop it. I think he's going to confront her and he's going to be mad.
But I don't know if it's going to be next episode, because the way the show does it, they'll let things simmer for an episode or so. So it could be 2 episodes from now, which we will watch for next week. We'll get it for next week. Who knows? It could be in the first 30 seconds of the next episode. I don't know.
Something that I wanted to talk about in the beginning of the episode Aftermath. It opens up on all these cell phones ringing at the police station.
Yes.
And the first thing that I thought of was the Pulse Massacre back, the gay club in Orlando. And I did some research, and starting in 2008, there's always been articles about how at the scenes of mass shootings, the thing that haunts the first responders is all of these cell phones ringing that their loved one is never going to answer. And it's a very, very visceral thing. Kudos to them for doing that, because it is an unfortunate aspect of the reality we live in. If you are in a disaster, you're trying to reach your loved ones, it's just this little artifact left behind.
It's what we have to deal with in the modern era, where in previous eras, if there was a tragedy, like we just passed December 7th, 1941, which was Pearl Harbor, when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. That took a long time to get out. And of course, there was war secrets, so you couldn't reveal who was survived and who was not. But that took weeks or months. And this, it's like you want that instant gratification, and you don't get that instant gratification. And when you're used to it and you can't get it because the phone lines are down, or the person can't respond, or whatever, it's wow. Especially if you're sending the messages that aren't being responded to. So, I mean, you have them in your timeline on your phone.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of called back to later in the episode, where Karen confronts Fisk. And she's telling him the first 24 hours are really the worst, aren't they, when you're expecting to hear back from them?
That was an incredibly dramatic confrontation between Fisk and Karen. I almost think it's unnecessary. I think she acted irrationally, and I think in the grand scheme of things, could it have waited? Or did she think that in a day things were going to change so much that she had to do it right now? Because she left Foggy hanging. So do you guys think Karen acted irresponsibly when she went to go see Fisk?
Yes.
Absolutely. But at the same time, who in this series acts? Well, Foggy, I guess, is the only responsible person.
I guess that's what disappoints me is I know Karen, just witnessed the massacre. She just lost her job. Her dad is, I got to find a word that SP doesn't have to edit out. Jerk. Irresponsible. Oh, you can't come home right now because it's inconvenient, even though you're having a nervous breakdown. And instead of, Foggy does go to her, it's like, look, I have this plan. And he is offering support. He is offering the structured plan, and you can do this. Then she just goes, and it's almost like the Felix Manning thing again. She goes in like she thought when she confronted Felix Manning, she had everything that she needed. She was going to be in control of the situation. And she went in there thinking that she was going to get Fisk in some sort of emotional deal. Instead, she really confirms that he already knew that Matt is Daredevil. Just that slight twinge of the face, because Fisk is so observant. He just went, yep, thank you for verifying that. That's all I needed. I knew, but now I really know. And for some reason, she talks about murdering Wesley to someone who is being watched by the FBI. I know that times that the camera's off and all these other different things, but I get why she was trying to do it, but you're going into not even the lion's den, more like the snake that you never see, who's just been waiting there. There are snakes that can wait for a very long time for prey to come along. That's where you're going. And she just messes it up spectacularly.
I've been giving this a lot of thought because that was an incredibly stupid thing to do. But again, like Michelle says, I understand where she's at emotionally. Like that sense of control that she has been ripped away. She's seen her colleagues murdered and assaulted and brain dead in front of her. That one woman who passed by very clearly looked like she blamed Karen. Matt's off doing who knows what. Foggy I mean, he's there, but he's a little bit removed from the situation. And then finally, when her dad, your family is supposed to be your support no matter what. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. And I don't remember how much we learned about her past. I read a lot of fanfic and I like to spoil myself. So I know some of what happened in her past. I don't remember if it's actually been addressed on the show.
I think between here and The Punisher, I want to say most of it has come out, but I don't know if all of it's come out.
SP, edit this if this is a spoiler. We know about her brother, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I think a lot of that tension between her and her dad is, I think her dad still blames her for her brother's death.
Oh, yeah.
So you have her having the survivor's guilt of the massacre at the Bulletin. You have her with the survivor's guilt of her brother. She needs something to control. She decides to go hurt Fisk. I don't think she went in there really with a plan. I think she's trying just to get some control. And I think she thought that by hurting Fisk, it puts her at an advantage over him and might make him act stupid. Who knows? But that's not how Fisk is. This was a terrible plan. Karen, I know, again, we've said nobody in this, like, people who make good decisions don't end up vigilantes. So it's hard to, but still, even judging by those standards, Karen, why?
Should make that into a t-shirt. People that make good decisions don't end up vigilantes. I like that. Talking about her savior here, Foggy came to her rescue because Fisk was going to kill her under FBI control or not. Foggy came to rescue her, but he had to leave his attack on Fisk at this banquet. He had to, like, in the middle of it, he had to, like, just throw down and leave to get there in time to save her, and kind of knew that this all was going to happen. He mentions to her later, I just imagined my worst possible case ever, and I knew that's what you were going to do, so I had to go take care of it. But he's ruined his attack now, his whole plan. I don't know how he thought that was a good idea, because Karen's right. Fisk has already thought of all these things, and he's going to best you on it. I don't know why Foggy, Matt, and Karen are all taking these individual attacks, and none of them are proving successful.
Okay. I was also thinking that this episode, we have Foggy, who is, I think, kind of the moral center of the show. He's the person who still believes in the system, who thinks, okay, if we just do this right, we can bring him down. And he was, trying to make all these connections, reading through Marcy's casework files and trying to, I saw him basically, I think he was going to try to pull an Al Capone and go through him financially if you can't get him, through actual criminal stuff. But again, Karen, the one who's like, okay, but if I give the truth, Karen is kind of the brain here. She's the one who's trying to go in a more cerebral way. You attack the hearts and minds of the public. And she thinks if I can just put out the truth, people won't help him. And again, that doesn't work because he's got too many people. And we have Matt, who's, I guess, the emotional heart of the show, who's like, I will just go and hit him where it hurts. I will hit him. And again, that doesn't work because Fisk knows how to attack the brain. He knows how to attack the mind, and he knows how to attack the heart. They need to work together. And I think that's what the series is leading to. I think it's only through them like Voltroning all of their three disparate abilities that they're going to be able to do something that he either doesn't expect or he can't counter, or it's too many hits at once. But none of them can do this individually.
I kind of figured Elektra and Stick would come back and save his butt.
No.
I'm pretty sure Stick is very dead.
I know. I was just trying to make a little joke there. Yeah, and the object of their attacks is Fisk. We find out now. I guess I watched the first few minutes of episode 7 last time. I talked about that last time. I talked about the fact that he got all his stuff back. That happened at the beginning of episode 7. So I'm sorry if I ruined that for everybody. But his penthouse is now stacked with all of his stuff that we saw in his other penthouse. And he's in there just lavishing luxury, getting room service, as Karen points out. And he is controlling everything from behind the scenes because he's got a back door that goes down a level or two into his own little command center through his closet. Come on, FBI doesn't know that there's a little command center going on a couple of floors down? Really? They don't check out everything because they're guarding the most wanted prisoner around? Really?
If you don't know the door is there, and I'm sure he probably has fake blueprints on file, you can do that. So there's just no way to look at maybe the blueprints. And he probably has someone in the FBI. We just don't know who yet. And I'm not talking about Dexter. I'm talking about probably someone else. I know it's far-fetched, but really, if it was anyone else but Fisk, I think we would be like, nah. But it's Fisk. He's the one that is orchestrating the downfall of the Albanians. He's the one that bought the hotel. He had himself shaked. I keep saying he's 20 steps ahead. Matt is like, Fisk is 5 steps ahead of me. I'm just like, no, Matt, add 15. He's 20 steps ahead of you. It's Fisk.
You don't think he's been planning for this sort of eventuality since he first of all, since he got the resources? We know, okay, he was a criminal before he had the resources. Now he has the resources, which makes him triply dangerous. So you don't think he knew that one day someone was going to come for him, someone's going to try to bring him down? Might as well have some backup and safe houses and back doors in all these various buildings that he owns, just in case he gets put there. Every time we see Fisk, he's so meticulous, whether it's with his appearance, the art that he has. It's all, it's modern art, but it's all very, very clean lines, very limited color palette. It's very deliberate art. And you can tell a lot about a person by what kind of art they appreciate. Thank you, Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Yeah, nice analogy there. I do want to go a step further with the art. There was a challenge to the rabbit painting. And I don't think that that's just going to lay down because it's very important to Fisk. You got the whole Vanessa thing in there as well. I'm wondering who the challenge to the ownership is. Is it Vanessa herself? Is it somebody else that, like maybe the Punisher? I don't know who the challenge to this of ownership is, but that's a very interesting tidbit of information because it's not just it's very important to Fisk. It's not going to just go away. Do you guys have any speculation on who the challenge is coming from?
My theory is like a hand level rival behind the scenes, somebody.
Madame Gao?
Maybe.
Because she's still around, right?
We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah. Michelle, any speculation?
I'm wondering if it's connected to the IRS thing.
Oh, yeah. Because I wonder if that, because we only went as far as Karen could go just to get the information that Wilson Fisk had bought the building. I guess that might not go away. It could still come out to the public. That was Foggy's plan all along. He just didn't get to it yet. But we'll see. We'll keep that in our minds. In the meantime, we got to talk about Dex. This has been a 4-episode terrible arc for the man. He's murdered all those people at the Bulletin. And then he is trying to go back to his therapy. And I know, Lauren, you've got a lot to say about that. He's trying to go back to his therapy and get centered again, finds out that he needs somebody else to help him center. And he's really fixated on Julie, even though he scared her away. So he's got to go talk to her about that. That ends up being the really loud bah in the coffee house, which was kind of inappropriate or whatever. They end up laughing about it, whatever. So great. But he did that. And then that causes Fisk to either kidnap or kill Julie. I'm not sure of what happened there. It was kill. So Julie's dead.
Oh, yeah. She came in, was like, oh, did the landlord? And the guy went, poop.
I wasn't sure if that was a stun gun or not. So I didn't watch that close, I guess. So anyway, Julie's dead. And then Fisk manipulates him into like this puddle that's hugging him and yelling really loud in the control room, in Fisk's secret control room. So there's a lot going on with Dex here. On one hand, I feel really sorry for him. On the other hand, there's so much information about him, from the little kittens that he said he killed, to the coach he killed, to all those people he murdered at the Bulletin. This is a psychopath.
So I talked a little bit last week about antisocial personality disorder, everything like that. I've spent this past week, just kind of for my own benefit, doing some research. Okay, first of all, I want to talk about a thing called mirror neurons. What these are, it's neurons in your frontal lobe that are kind of responsible for learning behavior. You see someone do a thing, it's like these connections are made in your brain on how things are done. I've read a few studies that with people with antisocial personality disorder, there are fewer mirror neurons in their frontal lobes. So whereas somebody sees something bad happen and kind of instinctually puts themselves in their place and is like, oh, that's bad, somebody with fewer mirror neurons has a hard time establishing that common bond with a person. One of the ways that antisocial personality disorder is treated is a little bit of what we saw in the previous episodes with his therapist. It's called mentalization-based therapy. And what it is you are supposed to, you actively work on putting yourself in a situation, and the therapist has less of a, I'm a professional. It's more of like what she was doing, which was questioning, like, why did you do this? Okay, this is this situation. This is what you do, and the correct thing to do in this situation. The thing is, what they did wrong with him, it's a thing called transference. And it's basically exactly what it sounds like. You transfer, it's when somebody transfers emotions, anything like that, from one person or thing to another person or thing. In this case, she got him codependent on her, and that's transference. Like, you're, instead of being, kind of centered on yourself, you are now centered on another person. That is not supposed to happen. That makes someone, like Michelle mentioned a couple of, either last episode or a couple of episodes ago, you are putting an undue burden on that person. So Dex, has transferred his need for a moral center from his therapist on to Julie. And with Julie gone, the next person who is available to be that object of transference, that emotional center, is Fisk. It's a form of control. This is very common in abusive situations where somebody, it's why you hear, when people are in abusive relationships, that they cut you off from seeing your friends and your family. You are only dependent on them. They are your only constant. And this is what Fisk is doing to Dex. This is what Fisk was trying to do with Melvin. He is somebody who knows the power that he has and what other people can do for him. So if they are only dependent on him, then that's how he controls them. So yeah, in this, Dex is absolutely a victim. It's, again, cool motive, still murder. He did just slaughter a bunch of people at the newspaper, but he is absolutely being manipulated. And yeah, it just continues to prove what a monster Fisk is, who, by the way, does not show any traits of antisocial personality disorder. He is very clearly capable of empathy, of, this type of, he's capable of fear for others. So sometimes, again, it's the nature versus nurture, it's biology, it's the people around you. You are not kind of like, a diagnosis does not mean you will act a certain way. But if circumstances press anyone, they are closer to doing that.
I think those personality traits for Fisk show up even in his head version with Daredevil, with Matt. And we see that again when in the second episode where Fisk does show up and talks back and forth with Matt when he's in the basement of the church. Those are very interesting conversations. I think we've talked about it before, and our assessment is that it is all in Matt's head, but it is true to Fisk. It is true to how he would act. It is not Matt's construct of Fisk. Of course it is, but it is basically like Fisk is there.
That's because Fisk knows how to build you up and then tear you down. He is manipulative and controlling, has some anger issues, but obviously can love and has his version of compassion. He values loyalty in an interesting way. He is, when we go to Nadim, the story of Jiggy, where Jiggy seems to be helping everyone, but then in reality, Jiggy is planting heroin in those who are supposed to be helped. So in a way, Fisk isn't exactly as crude as Jiggy, but it is that service. It's like the first season of Daredevil. He was on the surface that savior of Hell's Kitchen and charitable and trying to be a developer, but then in the background doing all of those, awful things. That's Fisk.
So 2 things. One, it is very common for people who are abused to themselves become abusers, because that's like the only model of how to act that you have. And 2, it was so amusing to hear Vincent D'Onofrio as Wilson Fisk say Jiggy.
Yeah, Will Smith and Vincent, they probably spent some time together clubbing in New York, when they're both filming. So getting jiggy with it. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. So Daredevil is trying to take these tacks to go after Fisk, and he ends up trying to team up with FBI, who he's simultaneously trying to beat up. But he finally gets to Ray Nadim, which is very interesting. Ray Nadim is entirely interesting. At the beginning of these 2 episodes, we see him go full bore into Karen, because he's already got the thought in his mind that Karen has something to do with Wesley. And then she is at the bulletin. Daredevil says Karen. We talked about that last episode. So Nadim is thinking Karen is this pivotal character in all this, which, of course she is as far as the story is concerned with the series here. But as far as Fisk, no, she's not helping Fisk at all. And it was the wrong Daredevil and everything. We know that. But Nadim is going down these incorrect paths that we know as an audience, but as an FBI agent, you can't exactly blame him. And I think one of the things that I do blame him for is that he goes into his SAC, what is it? The agent in charge, senior agent in charge, Tammy Hatley, and they're going back and forth about how Fisk might indeed be playing them. And they're like, no, we can't tell our superiors. Why not? you should be telling your superiors. You should be telling them all the possibilities. You should. I mean, if this big of a mess is going on, the superiors should be around and getting some information. So I have a little bit of an issue for there. Okay, because story, because plot, as good co-hosts of ours used to say, Neil. But there is definitely things going on. And then when Daredevil meets Nadeem in his basement, they have this conversation, and all of a sudden Nadeem's like, okay, what do you got? And Daredevil comes out, Matt comes out and says, well, the other Daredevil, it's an FBI agent. And of course, that gets Nadeem all up in arms because one of his brothers, one of the people, Sheeps and Wolf Clothing, of course, is there. So now he's like, okay, we'll look into Dex here because that's the person who it might be. They end up in a shootout, basically in Dex's apartment or from Dex's apartment, and they find the tapes kind of semi-implicating Dex of where he's going, and Ray gets shot and then ultimately calls his boss. I think that's what happens at the end of the episode. The last time we see Ray, he's bleeding, he's been shot, he's lied to his wife about being out, and he promised he wouldn't lie to her, so we know things are going on there. But he calls his boss. I don't know what's going to happen because of that, but they are now officially on to Dex. So we'll see what happens there. Well, what do you guys think of Ray Nadeem in this whole thing? I mean, he gets his promotion at least.
It's this idea of first losing face and admitting that they were taken advantage of. But he says that all the work that they've done would go away. Not necessarily. I mean, Fisk used them to absolve his crimes and make himself look good, but his information is true. He lied by telling the truth. The best lies are wrapped in truth. I guess they think that all the convictions and everything would be overturned because they would be exposed for Fisk using them. But technically, Foggy has the conditions. And number 3 is conspiring to commit a felony or some sort of crime. So actually being exposed for using the FBI would violate condition number 3 and get him back in, if I am interpreting the law according to Foggy Nelson correctly.
I think a lot of it also is with regards of, we can't tell anyone. There is a tremendous pressure that I do not work in the FBI. I do not work in the police. I do not work in the military. I don't work in any kind of forward-facing public area. But from what I've gleaned from people that I know, including family members who do, and from reading the news, from reading, just various things, is admitting to the public that you did something wrong. If it comes out that you did something wrong, you can't do it because it undermines your authority. And I think that's a lot of what it is. It's, we look weak, we look stupid, whatever. There's also the possibility that some of the people there are on Wilson's take. Like, you always want to think there's only so much that incompetence can qualify for. But then again, incompetence is, what's the saying? Never ascribe maliciousness where incompetence can be the answer. It's something like it's something like that. I don't remember the saying.
It's a little bit big for a t-shirt, but okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned before about Hatley, about Agent Hatley. Maybe she's been on the take, and we banded that back and forth. There's no clear, definitive answer at this point, but it's a possibility. I could see it, but I could also see the other way. I mean, there's no proof either way at this point. Okay, so Daredevil, he's doing some fights in these 2 episodes. He had the fight we haven't talked about the suit yet. So he's trying to investigate. Matt's trying to investigate. He finds Melvin, and then finds Melvin is actually together with his parole officer another thing that is very exploitable and highly illegal, actually, and everything. But so Fisk is able to exploit that pretty easily. Melvin takes Matt to his, Daredevil, because he doesn't know him as Matt, but he takes Daredevil to the shop and ends up trying to lock him up there.
Yeah.
For the FBI to come.
And we find out that Melvin has, again, Fisk is controlling him. Fisk is threatening Betsy again. And Melvin is slow. He tries his best. He's very good at a lot of things. Like, he made the suit, and the suit is awesome. But when Matt tries to tell him, like, no, tries to tell him other ways, Melvin's like, no, he's fixated on that one thing, which is Betsy. And he knows it's wrong, but he needs to keep Betsy safe. And again, Fisk is using not only his connection to Betsy, but the illegality of a parole officer being together with her parolee. So that's like double the advantage that he has over them. And I feel so bad for Melvin because he's not a bad guy. He's just someone who is easily taken advantage of and manipulated.
And at the end, when the FBI do take him into custody, all he cares about is Betsy. You got to save Betsy. You got to protect Betsy. He doesn't care about himself, as obviously he's being taken into custody. Probably going to end up in jail because of his illegal activities and making the vigilante suits.
Plus, he threw a saw blade at a Fed.
Well,
and
that's
I think
just self-defense. You don't know who's knocking at the door. Yeah, I know. I'm just being the lawyer, right? The defense lawyer in this case. So, yeah, he's going to end up back in jail. And luckily, later on, I think maybe this is like a kill the dog sort of thing. Later on, that Fisk said, no, we're not going to press against Betsy or Melvin. So we know that they're not threats. Probably won't be back in the series again. I don't know. But at least we don't have to worry about them being taken out of the equation because Fisk is like, call the dogs off to Felix. But Daredevil has a very explosive fight with Melvin. I mean, Melvin's doing good at that point. And then the fight later on at Dex's apartment and with the gunplay and that going on. I don't know. Did Matt get shot? I don't think Matt got shot. I think
for once, Matt did not get shot.
No, but we did see a shirtless scene in these two episodes as he's changing, from the bed when Fisk is talking to him. So he didn't have oozing wounds. He's definitely not clean, but he didn't have oozing wounds.
Wasn't Maggie trying to stitch him up at the beginning?
Yeah.
Yes. That's a bit oozing.
Yeah.
So a lot happened, even though I wouldn't say these are the most explosive or the best episodes of the series. They continue to have me interested. I mean, how would you rate, Michelle, how would you rate these two episodes?
Getting better. Matt might still be a jerk, but because there's less Matt in the episodes and more Karen and Foggy, by the way, had OMG, I'm alive sex. And I want to give it up to Marcy for saying no to the wedding proposal because that was not a proper marriage proposal. She was completely right about that. So good on her. So because there's more of the other characters, it's really improved the quality of the season.
Lauren?
I think these episodes were very, very good from a character standpoint. I think that is the advantage of these episodes. I really, really like what they're doing with Dex by showing us, yeah, he's a bad guy, but he's also a victim. We see, Daredevil's a jerk. Sometimes the good guys are jerks. All of the stuff with Fisk, I think, is fascinating. And watching, I was just kind of struck once again by how underrated Foggy is as a character. He's just, I don't know, I find him really, really compelling this season.
I think Foggy has been in a couple of the series right before. I know he was in Iron Fist. I don't think he was in Jessica Jones.
I thought he had like one appearance in an episode of Jessica Jones at Jerry's office.
Yeah, he was in Jessica Jones.
Okay.
Yeah, he was when she ended up arrested.
Yeah.
I think he showed up as like her lawyer to get her out or something. I've slept since then.
It's been a while since we covered it. So yeah, Foggy's been a continual thread ever since the Defenders and in all these universes, so, which is good. And there's no law firm with him and Matt. You know, he's in the big law firm with Marcy, which amazing that Foggy is still with Marcy. I just want to commend the series that those two are still together, very much together. Even though she didn't say yes. She didn't say no, and she said, when you do it, I want to make sure it comes from your heart. So, like, eventually she's expecting it, but it's just not, it's the wrong time right now.
Yeah. People make very rash decisions after trauma. Getting married is one of those things that you hear about a lot with people who just lived through a big event being like, life is so short, we need to do this right now. It is a very understandable reaction. However, Marcy, who was not directly involved in that, has a clearer head there and is like, we want to make sure that we have actually thought this out before we do it. I am a lawyer. I know how much divorces cost.
Yeah.
I feel like was the subtext there.
And they got quite the apartment, so I'm sure there's going to be a prenup.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I guess she was making bank before he was brought on board, but I just was thinking that they were both equals, but I guess the inference is that she makes more than he does, which is fine. I thought they were equals.
She's been there longer. She, by rights, should.
I don't think it was that much longer, but yeah, she was longer because Foggy went out and did his own law firm where she got him. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Plus, it could be, I don't actually remember what branch of law Marcy practices.
I'm not sure.
I have an inordinate amount of lawyer friends. So, yeah, certain fields pay way better than others.
Yeah, she seemed to be with the IRS part. So
tax law is basically the most lucrative.
Yeah, she understands tax law because it seems Foggy is more of a defender. He's a defense lawyer, a criminal defense lawyer. And there's a lot more of those than there are tax lawyers and property lawyers and such.
I'm not sure if their firm does defend. I think maybe.
It seems like, yeah, he's very much in kind of the interpersonal legal conflict stuff. Like, again, he went to law school, sounds like, for criminal law. So you wouldn't expect a criminal lawyer to handle a tax case. I feel like what Hogarth, and Associates, whatever, does, I feel like they have a wide variety of lawyers and they seem to cater to, again, it brings in more for the company.
I think Jerry Hogarth is on her own now. She got rid of her partners, or they separated from the partners, if I remember that correctly. And then this is going way back into my brain because I can't remember when we covered the first season of Daredevil, but wasn't Foggy interning, I think, at that law firm? I remember a scene with them in like a closet, him and Matt in like a copier or office supply closet.
I don't know if it was there, but yeah, they definitely were interning at a firm together.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens. We have, I believe, 3 episodes of Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. on Daredevil. Next time, we're talking about season 3, episode 9 and 10, Revelations and Karen. And then the following week will be, or the following episode, which I think is going to be in 3 weeks after that, will be episode 11 and 12. And then we'll come back with the finale. Probably, and I'll have to take a look at the schedule. Michelle's going to chastise me for not knowing this off the top of my head, but I think then we get into WandaVision. So it'll be a good transition right into it.
Yes, because I actually did the math and we stick to our holiday schedule and everything. We will end and then WandaVision actually premieres. So we should be able. I like it when things like that happen. We all know this. We all know the whole Iron Fist fiasco or whatever. It fit. Michelle likes that.
And it's so great that we're talking Daredevil right now because there's a big announcement that we're going to talk about in a second.
Well, we have a few news pieces. The first one is about why certain people shouldn't have a Twitter account.
Oh boy, it's been a week. Letitia Wright, Shuri from Black Panther and Avengers, etc., deleted her Twitter this week after posting an anti-vax video. Okay. She retweeted a video from a religious YouTube channel that questioned the legitimacy of the COVID-19 vaccine, appears skeptical of climate change, accuses China of deliberately spreading COVID-19, and to top it all off, included a lot of transphobic comments because that has anything to do with vaccines. Okay. Unsurprisingly, Twitter is not here for the supposed smartest scientist in the Marvel universe spreading pseudoscience and anti-science nonsense. Don Cheadle kind of didn't know what was going on at first, tweeted "Bye Letitia" as a joke because of the "Bye Felicia" thing. Started sticking up for her, admitted he didn't know what was going on, watched the video himself, and then said that the video was garbage and he was going to take his discussion with her offline. And unfortunately, in the past, Letitia has also posted and liked QAnon-related theories. I know that celebrities are just people and they aren't their characters, nothing like that. But it is always disappointing to me to see anybody with any sort of
following.
Yeah, I keep wanting to say Apple box, but that's not the word. Soapbox. Anyone with any sort of platform, using that to promote things that cause harm. I was not a happy bunny this week with regards to that.
I don't think I've mentioned this to you guys before. Maybe I did offline last week or whatever, but my daughter recently got a job at a hospital as a nursing assistant as she is on her way to become a nurse. It's not related. She's a nursing assistant because the opportunity was there and she wanted to work in a hospital as she was getting her degree. Anyway, so as a nursing assistant, you go around the hospital and you spend time with nurses as well as doing your nursing assistant duties. And so I guess when they eat meals or whatever in the break room, they're talking back and forth. And she was saying to a T, all of these nurses that she was talking to said they weren't going to get the vaccine because it caused infertility. So I was like, okay, I haven't heard this yet. So I went and looked into some research as much as I could find and articles, and it's been debunked. There's no facts out there for it, but I'm just a whole hospital of nurses think this, even though there's been no information staying. It's false information that they've gotten from Facebook, basically. And how can you even tell that? Because it hasn't been 9 months yet since the vaccines trials have started. So I can't say yes or no based on that fact, but there's no indication that fertility has been affected. I weep for the nurses out there that aren't getting the information that they really should.
Michelle, you looked like you had something to say, and I know I certainly do.
This upsets me so much. And it's like the science teacher I worked with that didn't believe in evolution and didn't want to teach it when evolution is fact. But you have a certain set. I know 2 nurses in my life. I know the education that they go through, how intense it is, what they are supposed to know. How? I understand that there's always a bell curve, and any profession, but the ones in certain professions, like doctors and nurses, those on the lower end should at least understand the importance of vaccines and how, that's why we don't have like polio. And well, we used to not have polio and have to worry about measles, but for some reason, this whole anti-vax, that the whole idea of I'd rather have my child die because autism, when autism isn't evil or life ending, or it's just flames on the side of my face. Flame side of my face.
So I will say that I understand minority communities, particularly the Black and Native American communities, being very concerned about new vaccines and stuff coming out, and especially the thought of a widespread vaccine program. If you go back and you look into medical history, the medical community has not been great about how it treats Black people. If you go back and you look at the 1918 flu epidemic and how they implemented that mandatory vaccine, there was a lot of harassment, particularly of Black people, and arresting them, and experimentation. Human experimentation on minorities is a very, very recent, it's in people's recent memories. So I understand that sort of ingrained fear in communities. However, there's a thing called the Gish Gallop. It is a method used in an argument where you throw out all sorts of things that are not true. They're going to be injecting, microchips into you. It's going to turn you gay. It's going to cause autism. It's going to just thing after thing after thing after thing. And the thing is, the way that the human mind works, people remember those because it's in short things. It is a lot harder and takes a lot more time to refute things. And that is how people win by a Gish Gallop. There is a lot of things to be concerned about with a rushed vaccine. I know somebody very, very close to me who has been advised by their doctor to not get it because they recently underwent very intensive treatment for cancer, and they don't know how it's going to affect an already weakened system in this manner. Their people can't get vaccines because of allergies to certain ingredients, like egg ingredients, egg proteins in the MMR vaccine and the flu vaccine. And to think that somebody is holding on to a debunked conspiracy theory instead of trying to keep people who physically cannot take this vaccine safe. Like Michelle said, flames on the side of my face. I'm holding back a lot of words right now.
I'm hoping that in this particular case, I'm hoping that the hospital staff, the leadership will come out and do an educational program for all hospital employees, because they are frontline health workers. They are in line to get the vaccine, like with the first dose that comes out. So I could see a lot of trepidation. So I would just hope that they would be educated correctly before things happen. So my daughter is part of it. She's one of the frontline workers, and she is concerned now just because these other nurses, she's brand new, right? She just started a couple of weeks ago, but she's really concerned because these other long-term health professionals are saying these stuff, and she's 19. She's worried about having kids someday. So this is now a concern for her. I've been trying to feed her all the debunking information I can, but she still needs to hear it from a medical leadership.
Yeah. There's another phenomenon that happens in very insular communities, whether it's, again, the nurses all at the same hospital, or the thing that I've seen particularly lately, wrestlers, you know, all in their own little areas where you are very insular, is misinformation infiltrates those spaces very quickly. And the human mind is designed to want a narrative. And the fact that science is messy and it doesn't sound cool or intriguing, people want to believe things are a lot more interesting than they actually are. And it causes a very us versus them mentality. So in things like these small insulated communities, whether it's a college campus, a hospital, a gym, like anywhere where people are very around each other all the time and around very few outsiders, it's incredibly frustrating.
All right, so let's pivot away from this and talk about the big news, since we're covering Daredevil right now, dealing with Daredevil.
So Charlie Cox is rumored to be returning as Daredevil in Spider-Man 3. Also rumored to be returning are Willem Dafoe and Dane DeHaan, who both played Green Goblin in different Spider movies. There's been a meme going around you may have seen. It's so-and-so is going to reprise their role in Spider-Man 3. It's like, you know, Mark Addy is going to be reprising his role as Robert Baratheon in Spider-Man 3. Hayden Christensen's going to be reprising his role as Darth Vader in Spider-Man 3.
No, instantly not going to watch.
I don't know about y'all, but what I think, and talking this out with a couple of my friends, I think we're on the same page. I think they are basically going to be glorified cameos, because we're pretty sure that since Doctor Strange is in it and his movie is the Multiverse of Madness, I'm pretty sure we're going to see glimpses of these previous Spider-Verses. I think if Matt shows up, he might show up as Lawyer Matt, I don't know, defending Peter Parker in a thing. But I don't think we can count on them having big full story arcs or grabbing up a lot of screen time. At least I really hope not, because that's how you get an overstuffed, bloated movie.
I'm just like, are they trying to do Into the Spider-Verse?
There's rumors that they're going to bring Miles Morales in too, so.
In a roundabout way, I think they are. I think they saw the Into the Spider-Verse and the success of that, even though it was done, you know, at a kind of a lesser level. They saw what was going on over in the CW Arrowverse, what they did. They saw Avengers. So they're seeing all this stuff and they're like, okay, well, maybe we can do it too, especially since there's agreement between Sony and Marvel/Disney right now. It'd be interesting. I'm just glad that Charlie Cox has got another chance to play in the role, because I just believe that the way the corporate infrastructure was between Netflix and Disney, and then the way that the Defenders universe was handled, we've talked about it before on Netflix. I think he didn't get a fair shake of being connected into the MCU. And I actually seen him in person at Indianapolis at a con, and I was impressed by him as an actor, as a person. And I just am glad to get him to see him in the role one more time, even if it is a 15-second cameo, because that is what it turned out to be in the Arrowverse Crisis thing, when you got all these cameos, 15 seconds at best, like more like 5 seconds sort of thing. But I think the Into the Spider-Verse really convinced them that, hey, we can actually do this and leverage all of this stuff, because there are still the people out there like, well, Garfield was the best Spider-Man out there, or Tobey Maguire was the best Spider-Man out there, or whatever. Well, maybe now they get their chance to see everybody in the same screen.
I legit thought you were talking about Garfield the cat for a second.
Meow. There would have to be a lot of lasagna in Spider-Man 3 in order to make that happen, which I guess is a possibility being in New
Another
York.
thing that I think is a possibility is this is how they're kind of backdoor sneaking in the X-Men. We know mutants don't exist in current MCU, but Inhumans do. So maybe we're going to get a glimpse at a world where mutants do exist, and then the mutants come over, you know, basically like a backdoor pilot there. Who knows? I don't know. Again, all wild speculation.
Or it could be something about how in Endgame there's all that time travel and they have all these weird thread things that they got to fix and that type of stuff. Who knows? I don't know. Dimensions, time travel.
Yeah, we won't know for like another year
or 3.
It's going to be interesting.
And our last bit of news is about Disney Plus. Fix Miss Marvel.
Okay. There has been a hashtag going around for, I guess, the last day or two as of the time we're recording called hashtag Fix Miss Marvel. There's a Twitter fan account called Ms. Marvel News that collects news on like casting, things like that. And they made a number of posts involving casting rumors. I've seen that, yes, these are confirmed castings. I've seen that they're still rumored. Again, I don't know. Everybody was, including me, was really excited when they cast a Pakistani American actress to play Ms. Marvel, who is very famously Pakistani American. Some of the rumored side characters, though. First, we have, the thing is, all of these actors, very good in their own right. I will talk a little more about representation at the end. I am sorry, not sorry. First, we have Zenobia Shroff, rumored as Kamala's mother. The actress is of Indian descent, not Pakistani. This is kind of a huge issue because there's political and religious tensions and between India and Pakistan. It's very contentious. We have Yasmin Fletcher, rumored as Nakia. This character, who is Kamala Khan's best friend, is very proudly Turkish and a hijab-wearing Muslim. She's hijabi in the comics. And they cast an actress who is of mixed ethnicity and Christian. The actor who has, I guess, actually, yes, been cast as Bruno because we saw pictures of him on set, was rumored to be a Trump supporter because he had liked some tweets. He made a tweet denying it. This is a problem because if they're supporting a notoriously Islamophobic person on a show about a Muslim superhero issues, and Andrew Brodier as Josh. The issue there is they're saying that he was supposedly kicked out of college for multiple Title IX violations, which have to do with Title IX has to do with sexual assault and access, like equal access for genders and things like that. But I've been Googling this all afternoon, and all I can find is that somebody said this was the case. I can't find any actual links there. So the last two, I will say, take with a grain of salt. The previous two, okay, I've talked ad nauseum about representation on this show. Something I was discussing with someone else earlier this week on a completely unrelated topic was this wouldn't be as much of a problem if there was already enough recognizable and positive representation of minorities, whether gender minorities, whether ethnic minorities, whether, just anything like that, disabled folk, anything. Because people's opinions, the public's opinions are formed by what they see and who they see. Go back and look at the public reactions to things like Sanford and Son and The Cosby Show with regards to public opinion of Black people. Go back and look at Will and Grace and Queer Eye for the Straight Guy on how gay people were more positively viewed by the public at large after that. So until we have people out there telling not only their own stories, but the case was brought up, why don't they bring in trans actors for roles where, the character is not specifically trans, things like that. Until we have that sort of representation, we need to be seeing people playing themselves on screen or in voices or writing in fiction.
I had seen a sway in that direction, so I just hope that it continues. But I also recognize, and I'm not minimizing what you're saying at all, I just also recognize that this is acting and that you're supposed to be acting, so you
and again, that wouldn't be a problem if people had already been able to be visible. Like if a disabled person won an Oscar for not even playing a disabled role, just playing a role, then it wouldn't be such a big deal that abled actors are nominated time and time again for playing disabled characters. It's called cripping up.
Right. I mean, Charlie Cox is a good example, right?
Exactly. There are worse things being perpetrated against minorities of all kinds, but it's still a very small but important thing to be aware of.
Right. And then as we recorded this, there was a bunch of announcements coming out of Disney. We won't even get into that this week because we don't have the full extent of everything, and the announcements were going on continuously while we were recording. So we will cover that as it relates to Disney, Marvel, and possibly Star Wars next time. And just keep that in your hats that we'll be talking about that next time. And if you have anything to say about it, please let us know, and we will include your reactions next time. With that, we have some of your feedback this week to talk about.
So, SP, I think it's you that's been doing this, who's been kind of asking a question on our Twitter for the past couple of weeks.
I thought it was you.
Michelle, is it you?
Nope.
It was me.
Okay. But I've really liked these. And last week, I guess technically, the question was, what superpowers would a holiday time Marvel hero have? The ability to eat anything without gaining weight, the ability to wrap the perfect present, the ability to make the perfect cup of hot cocoa, the ability to perfectly decorate or make the perfect snowman. And there's been some good answers there. I will plug mine first because I think it did come first chronologically. Being able to intuit the perfect gifts for everyone. Don't know about y'all, but I always put off gift buying till the last minute. And that makes it very hard for me to figure out. I can give people gifts any time of year for any reason, be like, hey, I thought of you. But when you give me a time limit for when a gift needs to be purchased, my brain stops working.
My ex-in-laws taught me a trick years ago, and I've been divorced for decades now, I guess. But they started buying holiday gifts like in March, and they just squirreled them away just to keep them. As things came up, as ideas came up, they would do that throughout the year. Now, I don't know how practical that is for everybody because not everybody has a place to store the stuff, or maybe they'll forget about them or stuff like that. But it is a way to do it. That's
what my grandma used to do. And when she died and we were going through her room, we found so many presents that she'd forgotten to give over the years. We got from Mr. Paracletes, basically what you want is a Time Lord. Need to be able to travel in time to get to all the houses in one night, as well as toy making and wrapping, infinite pocket dimension storage for presents, and 2 hearts for increased metabolism for eating.
I don't think it's a bad idea. As a matter of fact, just this past week with the girls, we were watching the Santa Claus, and the thought occurred to me just watching the Santa Claus with Tim Allen, right? And Tim Allen, therefore, even though it wouldn't work in the story or whatever, but I'm pretty sure he was a graduate of Hogwarts because that is the only way that he would be able to do the things that he did in that movie.
I really like in the Discworld series, there's a holiday novel called Hogswatch, and I believe the movie version is still on Amazon Prime. It is very good. I watch it every year. I always cry. But the way the Hogfather works is there's basically a separate dimension for gods and minor deities and things like that. So that's how he's able to do everything in one night, is time runs differently there. But yeah, so are we decided that Santa is a Time Lord? Because I don't think that's terribly unreasonable.
I think that is possible.
Possible.
Yeah, the 8 reindeer are his companions.
Yeah, yes. And the sled is a TARDIS.
There we go.
There we go.
Mystery solved.
And then because we don't have the sled around for the other 11 months out of the year, the chameleon circuit actually works. Okay.
We also have from Jeppy Keith, at Jeppy Keith, so Sir Jeffers there, makes sure there's always an extra PS5 or Xbox in stock. And I don't know about y'all, but I have been looking. I have not been finding.
I just resigned myself that I won't even start looking for one to buy until March to June next year. Might even be after that, because it's just between the pandemic and the actual how these game consoles actually came out. There weren't going to be a lot anyway, even without the pandemic. So it was going to be a scarcity thing this time around. And there's really no games that take advantage of it right now. They're all still, if you have a PS4 or an Xbox One, you're still good for now. So I don't feel compelled to spend $600 on one of these things right now, if I can find them, or more if I go to the secondary market, which I'm not going to do.
No, I figured, I'll just, we'll just wait. But then, of course, the holidays come around. I'm like, wouldn't it be nice if I got my spouse this present?
What you could do is get gift cards for one, right? So when you can find it at wherever retailer that you're going for, you could use them.
Or you could do what I did, and I bought myself and my mom. We both have 1 square foot of land in Scotland, so I am officially Lady Michelle. You may bow.
Oh, my lady.
Thank you.
Do we call you my lady now, or Agent Michelle, or my lady agent, or Agent my lady? I mean, how does this work?
I like the sound of my lady agent.
Yeah, we're going to have to workshop this.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So we'll try to get another one of these fun ones out before we record next time. So in the meantime, Michelle, you have an idea of what we should be doing right now?
We're going to take the back stairs out.
Had a lot of great discussion this week, a lot of on-plan great discussion. So we went a little bit long this week, but thank you very much for listening all the way to this point. Really appreciate that. And we're going to keep episodes coming throughout the holidays, even though we're not going to be live streaming. And we will come at you. Really looking forward to WandaVision. So if you have anything to say about WandaVision, if you have anything to say about the Disney announcements that came out, we would love to hear from you. And thank you very much for listening to this show.
I'd like to thank SP and Michelle for all their hard work. Yeah, SP, you're a podcasting machine, just chugging along. It's impressive. Michelle, the work you do every week with the notes and everything, you guys are both absolutely fantastic. And I think all of us, the audience, me, everyone, we're lucky to have you.
Oh, if I wasn't have to do social distancing, I'd give you a hug right now.
I know. And really also, Lauren, thank you. You are our social media maven. I mean, you interact a lot. You live tweet and you bring us news. I mean, sometimes I find news, but you bring us news that even was not on my radar. So this is really a team effort in everything. We're all important. This is how Matt Murdock, Foggy, and Karen should be working. This is what it is, people, right here.
Do I get to be Foggy or Matt?
I feel like you're Foggy. You're like the grounded one who's following the procedures and making sure everything runs.
That's good, because I don't want to have oozing wounds. So I'm good with being Foggy.
I think I might be the one with the oozing wounds.
I don't have a gun, but I do have a baseball bat.
There you go. So until next time, I'm producer of the show, SB.
I'm Agent Lauren.
And I'm Agent Michelle.
See you everybody next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. If you want to leave us feedback, go to gonnageek.com and you will find all our contact information and other shows. You can also visit legendsofshield.com where you'll find our complete archive of podcasts. The music heard on this podcast is by Kevin MacLeod, found at incompetech.com, and also artists on pond5.com and audiojungle.net. The opinions heard on this podcast are those of the individual hosts and do not represent Stargate Pioneer Productions, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D, or Gonna Geek. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is the property of the Disney Corporation, Marvel Studios, and ABC. No infringement is intended. Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is copyright 2013 through 2020.